we were chatting today, Bill Jordan and I. We had a great conversation in 2020. And I started having these conversations with other people in the industry in 2020 around just the idea of and the growth and the progression of Black designers from a footwear perspective. And I started having these conversations with the idea of understanding the journey, right? And I would say the journey really started. Is Wilson Smith in this room? Stand up, Wilson. So the journey of the Black footwear designer started with that brand in 1986. Where Nike and Tinker Hatfield gave him a chance to showcase his abilities as a creative. And our industry has been slow to grow ever since then. That is, what's my math? That's 37 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how many people in this room is 37, but that's 37 years. And that's kind of shocking to understand that, our first, somewhat official contribution was just as short as 37 years ago. And, that was something that I was aware of when I started in '89. I didn't know Wilson existed. We didn't have Instagram in '89 and '90, so I had to physically meet Wilson in person. But over the course of that time and to this day, today, there's still less than about 250 Black footwear designers in this whole industry. So you do that math, and that's like a 3% growth every year. Now, no company would allow 3% growth for a quarter, twice. You either correct it or you get rid of it, right? Never ignore it, though. And so the plight of us becoming in this industry has been super slow. And I wouldn't say that we were ignored. I would just say that we weren't appreciated. We weren't appreciated for our contributions as creatives. We were appreciated for our contributions as as consumers and as endorsers, spokespeople, but never on the other side of the table. And that led me to really understanding my history. I'm a huge Black history person, and I know just about everything about Black people in sports. So you can ask me a question, I can tell you. But I stumbled upon this gentleman by the name of Jan Ernst Metzlager, and never heard of him. And I was embarrassed that I'd never heard of him before, because this man, I would argue to say, single-handedly changed the footwear industry 140 years ago. 140 years ago. Wilson's not 140 years old, okay? All right? But this man invented a machine that is the modern-day version of how we put shoes together. And he did it with no computer. Like, we're talking 140 years ago. He just had whatever he had, which was pencils and papers and rulers. And it took him about 4 or 5 years to master this and cobbling it up. And then for him to have the vision and the foresight to get a patent for it. And then he didn't stop at one. He ended up getting like 5 or 6 patents for different machines. But his invention took footwear making from 50 pairs a day to 700 pairs a day. And I just started to think about, like, wow, like, we were at the beginning of the footwear industry 140 years ago. And you fast forward to where we are now, we're damn near non-existent on the engineering side, the design side, but we're everywhere as consumers. Everywhere. We have a $1.6 trillion spending power. Did y'all hear what I said? Mm-hmm. $1.6 trillion spending power. But yet, our actual worth has decreased every year. Our worth has decreased. Our net worth, our wealth, has decreased every year. So what happened in 2020 was amazing because we started to get a spotlight on what was possible. And brands and organizations and foundations started to look at investments into, how do we shift some of those conversations from just being consumers to being contributors and creatives, business owners. And so one day I had a conversation with this man, Mr. Bill Jordan, and we were talking about this topic, and I said, hey, there's a thought that it would be great to have a footwear factory that could provide opportunities for young and older, folks, an opportunity to kind of understand what it would be like to have their own brand or create their own product. Now, this is not to compete with the larger brands who are all our sponsors and school partners. It's not that at all. Just to have options, right? It's just to have other options. And so Bill and Roger was like, that's a great idea. And we'll support that. And I'm like, for real? Okay. So now I got to do this thing now. So this is like I talked about earlier when Matt, he mentioned he planted the seed, and I had to grow this seed now. And so which is I think very, very poignant, very great point coming from this last panel. One of the first people I reached out to was Karen Morris. Is Karen in the room?
She's right there.
So, one of the first people I reached out to was Karen. Is like, Karen, I'm kind of doing this thing in Detroit called Pensole College. Can you help partner and grow Pensole Inc. and help and partner and grow this footwear factory called JEMS? And JEMS is an acronym for Jan Ernst Metzlager's name. And because he was an amazing person that never got his just due, he actually passed away 4 years after he received his patent. So he never got a chance to see the full vision of what his impact actually really occurred in this industry. And so we got on this, we partnered, and we started going down this path of building a factory together. And every bit of entrepreneurship is exactly what you have heard, and probably a lot worse. If you're,
a lot harder.
It's a lot harder than, it looks sexy sometimes, but it's hard. If you're not willing to be close to losing everything, don't do it. Friends, family, relationships, all that, right? Because it's a huge responsibility. But, Roger and Bill was in DBI was amazing people to work with and agreed to do this because they also believed there was a bigger opportunity for us being in this industry to create more cultural currency for folks like you out there in the audience instead of just being customers, right?
One of the things I'd say, Dwayne, is that I wouldn't look at the sponsors here saying, oh, you guys are coming into our space. I think they welcome it.
Yeah, I hope so.
They welcome it because it's an opportunity to create new design talent, new people in the footwear industry. And guess what? I know they're all going to try to gobble them up and bring them into their own corporation. So what I would tell you, I don't think they look at us as competitor. I think they're cheering for us to go be successful so that we can change the footwear industry and give them more talent.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I mean, that's what Pensole Lewis does now. We currently supply the industry with top talent, and we've always been there because, like I mentioned, I noticed a deficit. And Maya Angelou once said, when you know better, you do better. And what we try to do is help you know better, so you can do better. But tell me or tell us actually about, from a DBI perspective, how do you see this kind of impacting how even DBI moves forward, not just with GEMS, but just as an organization and the company as well.
Yeah, and Dwayne and I have talked about this a lot over the last few years, and we've done a lot of interviews together about it. But we've got one goal with our investment, and that is to change the footwear industry, right? We're not trying to go out there and make a bunch of money or make some great political statement. What we're trying to do is change the footwear industry. And when I think about that, and Dwayne referenced it already, less than 3% of all designers are Black in our industry. And I can tell you, I didn't know that number before Dwayne had told me, but I could have told you it was woefully underrepresented, because I went and looked at our design team, and you can see in our design, in the brands that we own, that it's underrepresented. So what do we want to do? We want to change the footwear industry. We want to give a platform for up-and-coming designers to design great product, be involved in the entire process of the product, because it's not just about sketching it out on a piece of paper or an iPad today. It's seeing how the shoe is made and being able to touch the leathers, and then being able to see that product go to retail. And when it goes to retail and have the opportunity for these shoes to be sold at DSW through our channels and through the 30 million loyalty customers that DSW has, that gives those creators the opportunity to see the whole process all the way through and understand a little bit more that it's not just about the product itself or sketching it. It's about all the way through the life cycle of selling at retail. And I got to believe, I can't wait to see when some of these young designers get the opportunity to see their design on somebody's foot, or walk into a store, or see it online, and what that's got to feel like and how empowering that's got to be. And we want to go find 5, 10, 20 great designers who are going to be the future of footwear.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because that's the other piece to what we do, is that we educate. And it was important for us as we build the college is to have these 3 key pillars of the business side, the design side, and the manufacturing side. Being able to expose you to the entire process, right? And what JEMS also does for us, it helps us launch this manufacturing side of education that currently doesn't exist either. From the supply chain side of things, from the sourcing side of things, the making side, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's so many other careers that are not connected to design, that are not connected to the business side, that's not connected to the marketing side, the sides that are usually the sexy side, right? The sexy side that you guys hear about and talk about and aspire to be a part of. There's this other side that keeps the lights on and keeps things going and make you really love the product, right? And so for us, it's looking at that, of being able to now even launch another educational platform that currently does not exist. And so what JEMS ends up doing for us, it helps us expand the college, but it helps us actually expand your knowledge of what's possible. It creates jobs. It creates opportunities, not just for the factory, but for all these major corporations as well, because they also struggle finding people in these areas as well. And so what ends up happening is it becomes another extension of our original vision for Pensole Academy, 13 years ago, of diversifying the industry on the footwear side. Now we're looking at the whole process. And that opened the door for us to do that. And so when Roger and Bill and I started talking, we talked about, it's not like the world needs more shoes, right? We need more opportunities. And this is what this gives us. It gives us a platform to create more opportunity, for sure.
And I think the great thing about this is that, yes, we're going to give up-and-coming Black designers the opportunity to go design and be seen, and that's huge. But on the flip side, it's also really good for customers, right? Because customers today aren't seeing the cultural diversity in design that we need to have in order to change what footwear looks like.
Right.
And when I think about the opportunity to bring new design talent who has different thinking, it excites me about what product is going to get put in front of customers and how that's going to change customer behavior, how customers are going to be excited about that. I mean, it's an opportunity to change our culture, not just, give some designers the opportunity to be in the business, but also change the face of footwear and what people wear.
So with culture being currency as our theme, the college is built on that. We have been forever. As we close, Bill, what advice would you give to any aspiring designer that's looking to go into entrepreneurship? I don't know why y'all want to do that, though, but that's looking to do that. What does that look like? What advice would you give them to look at partnering with industry in a more deeper way? And even if it's specific to DSW or not, right? Like exactly like what advice would you give them who, some which I do know in the audience, have that idea of having their own?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really hard. And with, Dwayne and I, we know a lot of people in footwear, and we've got a huge head start. And we can tell you opening, and so can Karen, opening a factory is a labor of love. It is not as easy as, oh, you've got the money. It's not, I mean, Dwayne was there the night before at midnight painting some of the walls.
I mean, putting windows in, all that.
Right? So but it was a labor of love, not a labor. And I think one of the first thing I would say is you got to have an absolute passion for what you're doing, because it's gonna take everything that you've got in order to make it happen. The second thing I always believe about brands is they have an ethos, they have a personality, a compass, and you've got to stay true to that. Like when I think about the best brands in the world, they've got something that is so important, inane into who that brand is, that they will never sacrifice anything to protect that ethos. And you've got to have that uncompromising ethos. And then third is always be making friends, right? Because you never know when you're gonna meet somebody like Dwayne, who's going to be able to open a door that's going to help you be successful. It's events like this. It's just always being aware of what's going on in the community. I mean, it's about you guys getting out there and sharing your idea. And don't be afraid to share it. Don't be afraid to tell people about it. Nobody's going to know about it unless you go promote yourself and promote your brand and be open and honest about it. I mean, that is something you should be going out there and doing as often as you can. And look, if you guys have got brands or design ideas or have a shoe that you're interested in, or you want to be a designer, reach out to me or people on my team. I've got open to hire on design talent now, right? And I want to find great people.
You just open the door. Man.
I know.
Be careful.
That's good. That's the door I want to open.
Be careful.
The door. But and if not us, because hey, we make a lot of women's dress shoes. Just to be totally honest, we make sneakers too. But I if it's not through us, we know a lot of other people. We want to change the industry. Like that is the full reason we've made this investment. I want to say this, and I want to make sure everybody understands the difference. We made an investment into JEMS, okay? That wasn't a charitable contribution. We are financial business partners.
Yep.
And why is that important, and why is that a distinction? You say, what's the big deal? The big deal is we can't just walk away.
Right.
Like it's part of our business now. We have to make sure it's successful. We can't just say, oh, sorry, we're not going to do this anymore. Right. We are motivated both morally, which is why we did this, but also financially now, right, to make sure that we've got a success. And that's why I love the way that this partnership is structured, because it means that it will be long lasting and not just a short term, here's a, you know, a charitable contribution. This is an investment because we want to make change.
Yep. And those are the type of partners, thank you, yeah. And you know, for those of you who are looking to be entrepreneurs, those are the type of partners you should seek. You seek people who, one, are like-minded. You know, I have nothing against people who are not, but it's hard. Like they end up making it harder because your full-time job is educating them on how you're going to use their money, right? And so find like-minded business partners.
Do they believe in your brand and your mission, or do they believe that they want to make a lot of money?
Correct.
Right? I mean, you know, those are the differences. And sometimes you got to be with somebody who wants to make a lot of money, because you know, that's financial funding sometimes. But you know, if you can align yourself with people who have the same ideas, morals, and ethics, it makes a big difference.
Huge. And then surround yourself with people that can execute at a high level of the same expectations, if not higher than yours, right? And you know, I mentioned Karen is one of those people. My wife, I can't see. I think she's somewhere here. Oh, there she is. My wife is. You know, as April in the panel talked about, you know, the women are sometimes behind the scenes, and she's been behind the scenes with me every step of this way, from you know, my Nike time to leaving to now, both on the college side and the Inc. side. So thank you very much for having my back and allowing me to dream and do crazy things to some. But I do want to leave with one of the most amazing things, a part of this journey too, is that machine that Jan created 140 years ago, we have one. Yeah. Yeah, we have one. There's 2 left in existence. And the other one's at the museum in Lynn, which is where he worked, and then the other one is at the factory in New Hampshire. So it's a piece of American history, not just Black history. So thank you, Bill. I appreciate it, man.
We appreciate all you're doing, and go change the world. I mean, you know, when I got into the footwear, when I first got into the footwear business, you know, I didn't come with, hey, I'm going to go change the world. But as I'm getting ready to leave the footwear business, it's very much on my mind. And, you know, I think there's probably this progression you do through your career. And I think I think you're in the same boat as me, Dwayne, which is, you know, hey, I've got this idea and I want to create, you know, a great shoe or a great business or whatever. But over time, you know, you see this larger, longer term vision or legacy, and what you have planted and what you are doing is a legacy, Dwayne, that will last forever and impact and change the world. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.